You're not bad with money. That's the first thing worth saying, because most people who end up watching a video like this have already told themselves that story, that they're irresponsible, undisciplined, fundamentally broken in some financial way that other people aren't. That story is wrong, and more importantly, it's useless. It explains nothing and fixes nothing. Here's what's actually happening. You have a set of habits that feel completely normal, habits that most of the people around you share. Habits that don't trigger any alarm because they don't feel like problems while you're doing them. They feel like what reasonable people do. Pay the bills, handle the necessities, treat yourself occasionally, save whatever's left. That framework feels responsible. It is also, quietly and reliably, the reason the number in your account barely moves. This video is about 7 of those habits. Some of them you'll recognize immediately. Some of them you'll push back on. That discomfort is the point, because the habits you're most convinced aren't problems are usually the ones doing the most damage. My name is William. Let's get into it. 1. You pay everyone else first and call it being responsible. Here's how most paychecks get handled. The money lands, rent goes out, car payment, utilities, phone bill, minimum payments on whatever's carrying a balance. All of it gets addressed. Then comes the social layer. The dinner, the event, the thing everyone's doing this weekend. And then, at the end of the month, whatever's left is nominally earmarked for savings. Except nothing is ever left. There's always one more thing, one more expense that feels necessary, one more occasion that felt unavoidable, one more reason why this month isn't quite the month to get serious about saving. This is paying yourself last, and the problem isn't discipline, it's sequence. By structuring your finances so that saving happens after everything else, you've mathematically guaranteed that saving rarely happens at all, because spending, given the opportunity, will consume whatever space exists. It always has, it always will. The people building real wealth do something structurally different. The moment income arrives, a fixed percentage moves automatically into savings or investments, before they see it, before lifestyle has a chance to reach for it, before any decision is required. When saving happens first, spending adjusts to whatever remains. When saving happens last, saving adjusts to whatever remains, which is usually nothing. Automate it. Move it before you touch it. Even 10% of a modest income redirected consistently for a decade produces an outcome that feels disproportionate to the sacrifice. That's not magic, that's sequence. 2. You think buying things on sale counts as saving money. The logic is airtight, which is exactly why it works so well as a trap. You bought something for $60 that normally costs $100. You saved $40. Except the $40 you saved does not exist anywhere. You cannot deposit it. It was a number on a marketing display designed to make a spending decision feel like a financial victory. What actually happened is you spent $60 on something you may or may not have needed. Sales exist because they are extraordinarily effective at converting browsers into buyers. They create urgency that bypasses rational evaluation. They generate a fear of missing out that makes waiting feel more expensive than buying. Flash sales, limited time offers, Prime Day, Black Friday, every one of these mechanisms operates on the same principle. Make inaction feel costly so that action feels smart. If you weren't planning to buy something before the sale existed, the discounted price isn't a bargain. It's a smaller amount of money leaving your account for something that wasn't on your list 48 hours ago. You save 100% of the money you don't spend. That is the only discount with a perfect return.
3. You have no idea where your money actually goes. Ask most people to estimate their monthly food spending and they'll guess. Ask about subscriptions and they'll hesitate. Ask for a complete expense picture and the conversation usually changes direction. This is financial fog, and you cannot navigate fog. The reason most people avoid tracking isn't laziness, it's the specific discomfort of confronting the gap between what they imagine they spend and what they actually spend. That gap is almost always larger than expected. The $40 you mentally assign to coffee is $90. The subscriptions you think total $30 are billing $115. The food delivery you consider occasional is arriving 4 times a week. Seeing those numbers clearly creates accountability. Accountability makes comfortable vagueness impossible. And comfortable vagueness is what allows bad habits to continue unchallenged for years. Track everything for 1 month. Every transaction, every automatic charge, every rounded-up tip, every small purchase you'd normally dismiss as irrelevant. The picture that emerges will be uncomfortable. It will also tell you with complete accuracy where the money has been going. And that information is worth considerably more than the discomfort of seeing it. 4. Every raise you've ever gotten has disappeared. You got the raise, real money, you earned it, and so you upgraded the apartment slightly, got the better car, started eating somewhere nicer, took a vacation that actually felt like a vacation. All reasonable, all affordable now, all deserved. 6 months later, something unsettling. You feel exactly as financially stretched as you did before. The number in the account looks familiar. The stress hasn't changed. The goals are still the same distance away. The only difference is that your baseline now costs more, and dropping it back down would feel like going backward. This is lifestyle creep. Spending rises automatically to absorb income increases, converting what should have been a financial turning point into a higher-cost version of the same situation. The particular cruelty of lifestyle creep is that it doesn't feel like a mistake while it's happening. It feels like progress. The upgraded life feels earned, and by the time you realize the raise changed nothing structurally, the new expenses have already become necessities. The rule that prevents it is simple and genuinely hard to follow. When income increases, let the savings rate increase first before lifestyle expands. Upgrade slowly, deliberately, after the financial foundation absorbs the extra income, not immediately, not automatically, and never at the expense of the thing the raise was supposed to accelerate. 5. You're spending money you don't have on a schedule that never catches up. Swipe now, figure it out later. By the time the bill arrives, you'll have been paid again. It'll work out. Over 60% of Americans carry a credit card balance month to month. The average balance exceeds $5,000. Average interest rates sit above 21%. At minimum payments on a $5,000 balance at 21%, you'll spend years paying it down and thousands in interest for purchases you likely can't remember making. The deeper problem is psychological. Credit cards surgically remove the discomfort from spending at the moment it would otherwise occur. You tap a card, wave a phone, click one button, the transaction is frictionless, abstract, not quite real. The pain arrives weeks later, diluted across a line item full of statements that blur together. That broken feedback loop makes overspending feel painless in the moment and confusing in retrospect. The rule that fixes this is one sentence. If you can't pay for it in full today, you don't have the money for it yet. Use the card for the convenience and the points. Pay the full balance every month, without exception. The moment you start rolling a balance, the card has stopped being a tool and started being a trap. And the interest rate is the cost of that trap, billed monthly, compounding quietly for as long as you let it.
6. You're investing in a person you haven't become yet. The running shoes are in the closet. The guitar is in the corner. The cookware is in the cabinet, still in the packaging. The books are stacked in a way that looks intentional. This is fantasy self-spending, purchasing for the version of yourself you intend to become rather than the one you actually are. The fantasy self runs in the mornings, cooks elaborate meals, reads constantly, plays music, pursues creative hobbies with discipline and consistency. The purchases feel aspirational, forward-thinking, like investments in a better life. But buying the gear is not the same as doing the thing. And when acquisition substitutes for action, when you purchase the costume without ever performing the role, you're left with expensive proof of intentions that went nowhere and a slightly smaller account balance than you had before. There's one question worth asking before any aspirational purchase. What have I actually done recently, consistently, that demonstrates I'm becoming this person? Not what I plan to do, not what I intend to start, what I've actually done. If the answer is nothing, the purchase is the procrastination. 7. You're waiting for the right time to start taking money seriously. You'll start budgeting when things settle down. You'll invest when you have real money to invest. You'll get serious about this when the income catches up, when the debt is cleared, when the timing feels right. The timing never feels right. That's not pessimism. It's the documented experience of everyone who's ever used future conditions as the threshold for present action. The conditions change and the threshold moves with them. The raise arrives and something else needs handling first. The debt clears and another priority appears. The years pass and the habit never forms, because the habit was always contingent on something that kept not quite happening. Here's what the delay actually costs. Someone investing $200 monthly starting at 25 accumulates roughly $600,000 by 65 at average market returns. The same person starting at 35 arrives at roughly $270,000. 10 years of waiting cuts the outcome by more than half, not because the later investor did anything wrong, but because compound growth is exponential, and early money has decades that late money doesn't. You don't need to understand the market to start. You don't need to pick stocks, time entries, or follow financial news. A basic index fund tracking the total market requires no expertise and has historically returned around 10% annually over long periods. Open the account, set the automatic transfer. The amount matters less than the habit, and the habit matters less than when you start. Waiting to feel ready is the most expensive form of preparation available. Here's what connects all 7. None of these habits feel like mistakes while you're doing them. They feel like what reasonable people do. Pay the bills, enjoy the discount, avoid the uncomfortable spreadsheet, reward yourself for the raise, manage the balance, aspire to more, wait for better conditions. That's the mechanism. That's exactly why they work so well and last so long. The habits that quietly drain financial futures don't announce themselves. They camouflage as normal, as responsible, as what everyone around you does, because everyone around you usually does do them. The interruption isn't motivation, it isn't discipline, it's knowledge and structure. Understanding why the sequence matters, why the discount is a trap, why tracking creates accountability, why raises disappear, why the balance compounds, why the gear doesn't make you the person, why waiting costs more than starting small. Once you see the mechanism, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you can actually do something about it. The next move is simple. Pick the one habit from this list that hit closest to home. Not all 7 at once. That's the kind of overwhelming commitment that produces zero change. 1. The one you felt most clearly in your chest while watching this. Then make one structural change this week. Automate the savings transfer. Cancel the subscription you forgot existed. Open the investment account and deposit whatever you have. One move, this week, not when things settle down. The financial version of yourself that you're actually trying to build doesn't come from a single dramatic decision. It comes from 7 small ones, made one at a time, starting with the one you already know needs to happen. Subscribe for a new video every week, and if this one landed, share it with someone who needs to hear it more than they need another reason to wait.